Hey, it's Lyndsay with Smooth Business Podcasting and, of course, the Leverage Your Podcast show. And I'm doing a solo episode today because I wanted to share about podcast guesting and some problems that I find a lot of people are experiencing when they do guest on a podcast. Um, I hear this time and time again. I've been on so many podcasts, but I just feel like it's not going anywhere, or I'm not getting any leads. My e-list is hearing crickets. My authority isn't growing. My exposure isn't growing. So they kind of end up feeling like the episodes are going into a big black hole and they're just not getting a return on their investment. And when I say investment, I mean, like, you're investing your time, right? And also your marketing dollars and your team on pushing those episodes out there. So I want to share with you the tracking system that I've set up for myself and my clients to track and help with podcast guesting ROI. So I've kind of stated, some of the issues and the struggles. And the key thing that you need to move forward and figure out the why and the what is data. And the only way to gather data is by tracking. And of course, I'm talking about my favorite thing in the whole world is Excel spreadsheets. I do love them, but they really do, in a serious note, really help. Now, there's a couple of elements to it. So one is tracking, your bookings, and the other side is tracking results. So let's talk about the first element of tracking here. So you want to have a spreadsheet where you can track who you've pitched to. So, pitch when you want to be on someone's show, whether you're using, apps like Podmatch or Guestio or those other softwares, or you're just finding people natively and reaching out on Facebook or LinkedIn or emailing, however, which way you pitch, even if you're using a service that get you booked. So you're going to figure out, okay, who have you pitched? Then you're going to track, okay, who out of that, who has said yes, who has invited you. And then you can see, who you can follow up on, because as you know, it's all in the follow-up. Next is what interviews have actually been booked, because it's amazing how many times, and I've seen this, where they say yes, and then things get rescheduled, or there's just a lot of back and forth, and then it never ends up getting booked. Again, time wasted, a show you could have been on, which would have been awesome. And then the next thing is, and I've seen this with clients as well, it's like, oh, I remember being on that show months ago. Whatever happened to it? So then you would never even know if it went live or not. It still blows my mind, honestly, that podcast hosts, some of them do not inform their guests and give them all the assets so that they can share the episode. It is crazy. So this is that whole black hole abyss where you record the episode, you've spent the time and the energy, and then you're like, where did it go? So if you have a tracking system, and you can, again, it doesn't have to be super complicated. You can have a VA helping you out with it, but you want to have that track, because if you spent the time on that show, you want to nurture that relationship further and remember that you were on it, but you also want to find out when it goes live so that you can leverage it, so that you can share it with your audience on social to showcase yourself as a guest expert and get people listening and engaging in what you're teaching and what you're sharing. And so that is what I set up. Again, super simple spreadsheet. And then the next thing you want to track is what kind of podcasts are bringing you a return on your investment. This is a whole different topic. I've had, and I'll share a story, and I've shared this a million times on other different podcasts, but So I had a client and she was on a specific kind of podcast. So let's say, for example, it was about digital marketing or finance podcasts. And she was on a ton of them and just wasn't getting any leads or clients from them. She thought that was her avatar. She thought those kinds of podcasts were going to bring her, her ideal clients and a lot of numbers, but it just wasn't. And so we pivoted and then she started pitching and guesting on a different type of podcast. And let's just say like money, wealth building types of podcasts. I mean, there's so many genres and so many categories I could go on. But then she went and guested on a totally different genre of type of podcasts. And then she found that she was getting a ton of leads. So we're like, woohoo, that's awesome, right? But then we looked at, okay, what is the conversion from getting the lead to getting on a call to actually becoming a client? So then she found out that she was actually getting a ton of leads, which is awesome, but they weren't converting to paying clients. So really, then like, what was the point? So then we tweaked again and were like a specific genre, and they were less leads, but the leads that she was getting from it were her ideal avatar, and she was converting them to paying clients. So therefore, the ROI of her podcast guesting strategy was starting to pay off and starting to work. Now, I bet you're asking me, how on earth did you figure out those numbers, the conversions, the leads, the numbers, the ROI? So this is where that second part of the tracking comes in. Again, honestly, I still use Excel spreadsheet, nothing fancy, but it is effective. And so on every podcast that you're on, hopefully you share a lead magnet, something free, a checklist, a video series, a swipe file, whatever that may be. When you're talking on a show, that is the natural next step because someone wants to hear more from you. They want your help. They want your assistance. They want your expertise. So instead of just saying, go to my website or go to, Joe Schmo /free and give the same URL on every single podcast, because then you have no idea where your leads are coming from. Are they coming from social? Are they coming from your own website? Are they coming from podcasts? You have no idea. You have no data. So we create unique links for each podcast that she's on. So let's say she's on my podcast, then she would have, joeschmo.com/leverage, let's say. And so we use Pretty Links. There's other things you can use, but Pretty Links is a WordPress plugin. And you can even get the pro version where it cloaks the URL so it doesn't redirect to, whatever the real raw link is. But when you go back in WordPress for that Pretty Link, you can actually see how many clicks have been on that Pretty Link over a specific period of time. So if the podcast episode went live June 1st, there's usually yes, podcasts are evergreen and people still listen and so forth. But generally speaking, there's a chunk of time, let's say 4-6 weeks, that the bulk of the leads or bulk of the viewers are looking at it or listening, whatever. So you can see how many clicks have been on that. So then you can compare. So it's okay, that podcast went live and was pushed out in June. How many leads did I get in for that specific lead magnet? So whether you're using Kartra, Keep, ActiveCampaign, whatever, you can get that data. So then you can cross-reference and correlate. It's not perfect, but it will give you a really good baseline to understanding it. And, we, of course, tweaked interview topics. We tweaked the opt-ins. We tweaked and updated our clients' one sheets, updated pitch emails, so that you can optimize all these little things to get on more shows, to have more yeses on people opting in for your lead magnet. But the key thing here that I'm talking about is that tracking, so you could understand what is working. So then let's say you are looking at your spreadsheet, and you can even have categories, right? Okay, I'm on these kinds of podcasts. These are all the clicks that I've been getting on my lead magnets that I'm sharing. And then also you can even go more granular and be like, okay, this talk topic and this lead magnet is getting more action than this one. So maybe that topic and that lead magnet is more attractive to your avatar than others. So there's different variables coming into play here. But then you can correlate, okay, how many leads am I getting? And then when you're looking at the opt-ins, and then of course, I have master tracking and stats for my clients anyways, where it comes for everything. So we can see campaigns, if you're using Keep or Infusionsoft, what is the natural next step? What are you asking them to do? It could be a call. It could be buy some tripwire, some small product. So are they taking that next step as well? And you can look at those stats within your sales funnel, whatever it is that you're using, Keep, Active Campaign, Kartra, whatever it may be. So I do have on my website, if you go to smoothbusinessgrowth.com/resources, you will see I do have a guest tracking download that you can get for my training, and you'll see that spreadsheet that I'm using as an example. So just kind of, you can see it more visually, right? But it has helped my clients dramatically understand where to spend their time, what kind of podcasts to be on, their topics, their lead magnets that they're using, so that you can see the results, because you are putting time and effort into guesting on podcasts. And yes, there are a whole slew of benefits from guesting that are outside of just getting leads. But this will really help you monitor your ROI and what is effective, what to tweak, what to optimize, so that you can get more and higher results from your podcast guesting. So I hope that was super helpful. By all means, ask me any questions. Of course, we do this for our clients. The promotion of the podcast episode, and of course the tracking. So we're always here to help. So anyways, hope that was helpful. Have a great rest of your day.